Good morning. Thanks for having me. And yes, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just great. Thank you very much. You gotta just like pop right in and speak up on this show, or so yes, it's good to hear you. Thank you for joining us. We wanted to check in.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start out by speaking up.
All right,
I'm
we
going to start
unfortunately
out by speaking up and saying that I work in the police department.
Yes.
okay. It says fire department here on my sheet, so I apologize. Captain Dan, I'm going to call you that for a second. We're going to take a quick 30-second timeout. Every once in a while, the Zoom doesn't work quite the way we want. Connectivity isn't perfect. I'm going to get you on the phone. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment. This is the MegaCast. I'm Dave Scott and Tyler Keefe. We'll take a 30 or 60-second break and be back and talk to the police department in Bloomfield Township next.
Hi.
Hey,
I'm
Captain.
Dr.
Yeah, I
Brittany
don't.
Caldoun. We know that COVID-19 is spreading rapidly across Michigan right now. The most important thing people can do to protect themselves is social distancing. That means unless you are a critical infrastructure worker or going out to get food or medicine for your home, you should be staying at home. Stay home, stay safe, save lives.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
All right, welcome back. It is the MegaCast. Look, you do Zoom calls yourself. It doesn't always work every time. Sometimes you get a little connectivity thing, but we have him here, and he now is connected, and we are connected. So let's go. It's Captain Dan Edwards of the Bloomfield Township Police Department. Captain Edwards, we can see you on Zoom, and we're also got you on the phone, so a little more likely that we're going to be able to hear you just fine. Good morning. Thank you for putting up with all this, and welcome to the MegaCast.
Well, thank you for having me on today and giving me an opportunity to talk to our community.
Well, I appreciate it. So let's get right down to business. How are things in Bloomfield Township overall? How have you been coping through this entire crisis, and what's it look like out your window today in Bloomfield Township?
Well, we've coping with the entire crisis. We've been ahead of the curve, I think. Our township supervisor, Leo Savoy, has been ahead of this from the very beginning and had us preparing for it initially, and we've had zero issues within our police department of officers being sick with COVID, and we've been keeping our officers safe and being able to provide a service to the community.
And that is a theme that is resonating across virtually all the communities right here in our backyard. Law enforcement working with top elected officials and top managers in our communities. Really, people don't realize how hard it is to get this right. You guys have done a good job. We salute you, and we thank you for everything you've been doing to keep us safe. As we're now seeing the coronavirus situation improve a little bit, and maybe a few more people out on the roads, things getting a little bit back to normal. And I back up and say at the beginning there was no one on the roads. There were very few EMS calls and police calls because there just weren't many people out there. What's it like now?
Well, speaking of calls for service, I ran our calls for service looking back in the last month, and I'm amazed that normally in the last month we have 3,000 calls for service, and this past month it was down 44% from that. And our crimes, we normally in this last month have 500 crimes in a month, and in this last month it was down 50% from that. So it really, people have really changed their habits, and it's had a huge impact on how much our officers are being called and how many crimes are going on. I was really surprised to see the stats as high as they were myself when I ran them.
Captain Dan Edwards, Bloomfield Township Police Department. Well, part of me, Captain Edwards, wants to believe that some of those good numbers are the good-natured acts of people to not want to get involved in anything that would hurt their neighbors during this really devastating time.
I would agree with that. A big part of our calls throughout this has been a lot of people's anxiety about what they should do with social distancing and wearing a mask, and they were calling on their neighbors to make sure they were being compliant, and we were going out initially and investigating those, and we're still having those. We just had a call a few minutes ago from a store that somebody was asked to go put a mask on before they come into the store, and I think they were the ones that called us, and they were concerned of, if the store was doing things right. So we go there and we talk to people and educate them and make sure everybody's doing the right thing, and which they were. And,
well, I appreciate you bringing that up, Captain Edwards, because let's take a minute and help the grocers and the retailers who are opening today. We've got malls that are beginning to open up today and tomorrow, and strip malls and a lot of businesses. In that case, you were able to help the grocery store because it's really not their job. It's really not their job to try. Let's start here. It's not their job to try to enforce the law. And if somebody walks into their store and they don't have a mask on, isn't it kind of a gray area as to whether or not they should kick them out or call you? What do you advise people to do?
Well, I think the responsibility is shifting more from a law enforcement issue as it was when it was an emerging situation, and I think it's becoming more of a regulatory issue, regulated out of Lansing by state government officials like OSHA and that oversee the safety of employees, and so they're requiring, Lansing is requiring businesses to have a business plan before they open their business and how they're going to deal with it, and I think that's more where it should be, rather than the responsibility being on us to go, every time there's a question about whether a mask should be worn or, a business should let people in. But we are still responding to those, and we deal with those issues. And, anytime anybody calls the police, we go and we try to preserve the peace and protect our community.
No, I get that. And your officers are great men and women, just like they are in all of our communities, and they want to be helpful. But at the end of the day, if you've got someone that comes into a store and the store owner or whoever in the store says, look, you can't be in here without a mask, it's the law, and they don't leave, and maybe a confrontation ensues, I assume that's a good time to pick up the phone and call 911.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and even before the confrontation ensues, if there's an issue with a customer just not complying with the law and the store owner isn't comfortable, and yeah, absolutely, give us a call. We go out and we deal with that fairly often. There's quite a few of those. Well, but I think people's anxiety levels are getting less and less, and they're becoming more comfortable with the new normal of social distancing and wearing a mask, and so I think less people are scared of what the unknown is.
Well, and I think by and large, we're talking about a very single, rare exception. I think by and large, people have done a really good job implementing these rules. And, they've been complicated. They're changing every couple of weeks. Something new happens. Last week, you couldn't go into a mall, and today they're opening 2 or 3 of them. So it's a quick changing landscape, not only for you folks who maybe are a little closer to the information, but for the people that are listening right now. So I guess we can understand if they're a little confused on matters.
We're on our 104th order from the government on reference this, or from the governor reference this pandemic. So we work hard to keep all our officers up on all of those because they have to go out and tell the people what the laws are and try to keep everybody on board. But it's definitely an emerging and a fluid situation. So we just focus on educating and getting voluntary compliance.
My guess is you've not got yourself in the quagmire that the sheriff department up in Owasso has, where you're having to enforce something that maybe the people that put you in office in your own community don't really support, or maybe they do. I mean, I don't want to get political here, but, the sheriff up there and some of the other sheriffs around the state of Michigan, all who, by the way, have to get elected, but they have not, in some cases, wanted to enforce some of these rules for whatever reasons. Have you had to deal with anything like that, Captain Dan Edwards, Bloomfield Township Police Department?
Well, I'm well aware of those issues up there, and I'm good friends with the sheriff up there. But our view is that we're the enforcement branch of the government, and it's our job to enforce the laws, and so we go out and enforce laws. We're allowed to use discretion in the way that we enforce the laws, and with the new and emerging situation, we obviously are, like I said, approaching it from an education and a voluntary compliance, and we're not looking to issue citations or arrest people. And right from the beginning, we told our officers, the court systems and the jail systems are suffering from this pandemic also, and they don't want to be overloaded with a bunch of tickets or a bunch of arrests. And so, let's try to avoid that if possible and try to just get the voluntary compliance. And we've succeeded at that throughout this entire thing. We've issued 0 citations and made 0 arrests. And we've just done it all through talking with people and explaining that, this is a healthcare crisis and you're doing this for your neighbor's health and for everybody's health. And people get that, and they want to do the right thing.
I couldn't agree more. Glad to hear that report. Captain Dan Edwards joining us this morning from the Bloomfield Township Police Department. And Captain Edwards, I know you talked to your peers, so that's the same story that we're hearing from virtually every local police department here in Oakland County, that they're not cuffing people, they're not taking people to jail, they're just working with folks to let them know what the rules are, and if they're getting close to the edge, trying to be helpful. So you piqued my interest. I'm sorry, but I'm just dying to know what your friend up in Owasso had to say. Is there anything you can share with us about the conversations that you had with the sheriff, who, for folks that might not know, it had to enforce or elected not to enforce some of the laws put in place by the state? As a barber in that municipality, decided to keep his business open.
Well, it wasn't in Owasso. Leelanau County is the sheriff that I know very well, and it's a confusing situation, to say the least, and with the new orders, and there's a lot of people that disagree with them, but I think we're all working together to serve our community the best that we can.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering that. I don't want to put you on the spot. Captain Dan Edwards, Bloomfield Township Police Department. Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to share with the community this morning?
Well, I think there's a big issue going on with law enforcement right now nationally that I don't know anything about the investigation. I think everybody's heard of the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis, and there was I saw 4 seconds of a video that disturbed me a lot, and I think law enforcement everywhere needs to kind of let their communities know what we're about, and that we have a lot of procedures in our department that I think everybody should know, that we work on de-escalation and we work on use of force stuff, and with the way we handcuff people and the way we treat people after they're handcuffed is a part of our training. And an incident like that would, just from the 4 seconds of the video that I saw, is not something that we would allow, and we have a lot of training that is the opposite of that, and a lot of policies that are the opposite of what I saw in that 4-second video.
Well, and to anyone that saw the video, we're talking about the situation that has resulted in the rioting going on up in Minneapolis, St. Paul right now. And anyone who saw the video, and I saw it as well, it just doesn't look like the kind of police work that we're used to, certainly in our backyard. And I appreciate you bringing it up. It just makes it tough for you to do your job on days like today, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yep, that's a unacceptable representation of law enforcement, and I think we need to be willing to say that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'm going to just back at you, Captain Dan Edwards, Bloomfield Township Police Department. I think our police departments, fire departments, EMS, all the emergency personnel in our backyard during this crisis have done an absolutely amazing job, and let's not minimize the challenge that we've all faced here in Oakland County, as we have seen more COVID-19 here than virtually any other place in the country, maybe barring New York, New Jersey. So good job to you. Please extend our thanks to everyone in your department. Thank you for coming on the broadcast, and we look forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.